Hey, I'm glad you're here for another episode of Fantastic Friday. I'm your host, Jonathan Frederick. Welcome back. On today's episode, we are into 2019 strong. It is already moving quickly. Today's episode is about redefining how you perceive yourself. Transition from a mindset and approach of I am a blank, whatever position or thing you're pursuing, to I'm a business person with a, for me, for example, it would be podcast. So today's episode is about redefining how you perceive yourself and what you do. Thomas Frank's episode, we posted a micro content clip this past week on treating yourself as a professional. I believe this can come down largely to how you perceive yourself. I perceived myself in 2018, in all honesty, as a podcaster. 2019, I'm going to be perceiving myself as a business person with a podcast. You see the difference there? Instead of, oh, I'm a podcaster, I'm saying I'm a business person with a podcast. Does that take away any value, any effort, any grit, any tenacity that I pour into developing this podcast to be the best? Absolutely not. But what it does do is it clarifies my focus on why I'm doing the podcast in the first place. You understand? For you, it may be that, oh, I am a sales professional. I am a business owner. I am a whatever it is that you're doing. If you blog or you wrote a book, I am an author. So what I want to do in this episode is simply share with you what I'm going through personally in that transition, in that shift of I am a podcaster, I am an ER, to I am a business person with a podcast. That with can then allow you to have a larger umbrella and larger vision and scope for what you see possible for yourself in 2019. So let's jump right into this episode. That is the gist of it right there. To be honest, if you listen to that and you get what I just shared, then you don't even need to listen to the remainder of this episode. But for the sake of Fantastic Friday being fantastic, we will elaborate a bit more for you. And by the way, I do appreciate you tuning in consistently now into the second year of the Heart Healthy Hustle show. I'm going to be referring to it as the show versus so much of podcast. Yes, it's a podcast. I'm going to be calling it the Heart Healthy Hustle show. Rolls off the tongue clearer. So, redefining how you perceive yourself. What is it, first of all, that you do right now? How would you explain it to somebody? Would you say, I am a driver. I am a sales professional. You may or may not have heard this before, but whatever you say, whenever you say the words I am, whatever you put after that is incredibly impactful to the trajectory of your life. And also I would encourage you, if you were anything like me, I didn't want to necessarily admit that I was treating podcasting as if it was my complete life in 2018, which did help. It helped it grow. It helped me produce consistently epic episodes with even more epic guests. It did help. However, it didn't help the grand scope of my vision in terms of treating myself as an ER or podcaster. So the reason I thought about this, honestly, I'll tell you how it came to me. I was on the plane coming back from Philadelphia Airport to RDU Airport yesterday. I was in New Jersey for a leadership conference. It was called Leadership Summit. It was a lot about working on your internal relationship with yourself, with God, and then how to communicate more effectively with others, starting with your family, things like that. And it was a very, very powerful conference. I'd love to talk more about different topics and things that I learned at that conference. But what I want to use on this episode is, I was sitting on the plane returning from this conference. Shout out to my Eagles fans. We lost in the playoffs, but we did get to the postseason, and that game was within our grasp. We just, we let it slip. So next year, boys, next year. So flying out of Philly yesterday, I'm on the plane. I got some space. I'm on an aisle seat, no one to my right, just one guy at the window. And I just got brainstorming. I'm sitting there. I'm in the very second to last row on the plane. It's funny because 2 flights ago, I was on the very first seat of an airplane. I never pay for preferred seating. I take whatever they give me. And it was funny that I got assigned a seat. Literally, it was seat 1A at the very, very front of the plane. I took out my phone and I'm looking at it here. I was writing down Fantastic Friday episode ideas. And as I was writing down ideas, more ideas started coming to me. Let me explain the process of how I come up with these episodes. I will go through my day. Something may hit me. It was either yesterday or the last couple days. I looked at the way I was approaching podcasting as the truth of it was I was looking at it like, oh, I'm a podcaster. I knew I'm an entrepreneur and I have other things going on, but I looked at the podcast like, oh, I'm a podcaster, more so than I have a podcast. That with is really powerful. You can say, I am a blank, whatever you want to be, aspire to be, or who you are in the business world. So for me, I want to say I'm a business person with a podcast. Episode 63 with Cole and Sonia Hatter. Cole, I found out, has a podcast himself, and he's had huge names on there. We're talking Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank. We're talking Gary Vee. The list goes on, and some of the names are even bigger. Now, he hasn't podcasted, at least on his podcast now, for quite some time. I don't plan to do that. I will continue to produce episodes. The point being, he has a podcast. He has multiple interviews, I think around 40 to 50, and most every single guest has a lot of notoriety in the business world. So it's interesting to see that he is a business person with a podcast. It's interesting that I saw that differentiation, and I don't think I would have seen that so clearly if he hadn't paused his production of the podcast. And I don't know, he may come back to it sometime and produce more episodes. But for right now, he can say, oh, hey, this is our podcast. This is some of the guests we've had on. Been there, done that, so to speak. It's another chip in the bag. It's another step of moral authority to be able to share with people who you're serving and people you're collaborating with in the business world to say, yes, I've had a podcast, or yes, I produce a podcast, or I host a podcast show. Now, for me, again, I don't plan to approach my podcast as let me get to episode 100 and then I'll just bag it and have it. And the truth is, though, that is an asset. It is a huge benefit to my personal career life, and it's evergreen, but I'm not planning to stop for years. Even when I say the word stop, I don't mean quit. I mean propel and further grow into new things. So for you, what does this look like? How do you define yourself? I was writing down ideas on my phone. This was the first one that came up to my mind. Pro tip, I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, maybe one of the very early episodes. Grab yourself a huge water bottle, like a silo. Nalgene has one called a silo water bottle. If you Amazon that, it's like $10 or $12. I think Target has them. It's about 50 ounces of water. I think it's labeled up to 48 ounces, 46 ounces. It's a liter and a half of water fits in this thing. If you drink 2 of them a day, it's a gallon. It sounds like a lot. It's really not. When you awaken your thirst, you really do find out how much you have been suppressing your thirst over your lifetime. Drink more water in 2019. And because you'll be drinking a lot of water, I do recommend getting a healthy water bottle that will last, that will be tough. Maybe get a stainless steel one. Even a glass one would be good, except those tend to break. The Nalgene has lasted me over 2 years, and I got to replace the screw-on lid because I needed something that was more sippable. So I got a lid. Nalgene makes it for this bottle and allows you to basically just pour the water and not have it spill out over the wide mouth opening. I also recommend a filter. I recommend Berkey filter systems with the fluoride filters. You're looking at around $200, but it will pay for itself within 1 year of buying it if you are purchasing bottled water at this time. I was buying a modestly priced bottled water called Deer Park, and I stopped buying that. I did the cost analysis of how many packs of bottles I was getting. I would get one about every week and a half, and they were priced around $5. Did the math and found a little over a year after purchasing this Berkey filter system, that's Berkey, that it would pay for itself. The interesting thing about Berkey is many people who RV, who go backpacking or stuff like this, they will buy a Berkey for their RV because you can literally take actual water streams. You can literally take sludgy water, put it in there, and it will filter it to be very drinkable and healthy. Filters out everything bad, including when you filter the tap water, which is already good where I live. It takes the fluoride out and it leaves the minerals in there. There are other things you can do like reverse osmosis, but that actually, I believe, takes out the minerals from the water, which you need. So anyway, if you want a Berkey filter, I don't get anything. I do think it would be an awesome partnership at some point, but for right now, I have been using the travel size. I would recommend the big Berkey if you see yourself as drinking over a gallon a day, or at least a gallon a day. If it's just for you even, yes. The travel size is nice, but it does run out before the day is out, so I need to be vigilant with refilling it. Side note of water ingestion over. So I hope this episode helps you to take a step back and look at what you're doing instead of as what you do and who you are in your identity whatsoever, even if it's a job that you hate right now that you're working, or perhaps you love it and you're getting compensated very, very nicely. First, let's address if you don't like it. If you don't like it, just look at it as a means to an end. You're going to be out of there before long. Pick a date and create a plan. If you love it, awesome, but stop calling yourself that position. Stop calling yourself, I am a this, or I am this. Don't do that. This is just, again, my experience, and what I'm finding is it's freeing up. It's forcing me then to be completely honest with myself of my capabilities, and so that I continue to push myself and my capacities. For example, if I say I'm a podcaster, I will podcast 24/7. I will do all things podcasting, and I won't do anything else. If I say I'm a business person with a podcast, then I see podcasting fits in its slot, and the other slots being my day job, being my digital media business where I create videos for companies to market with, or be it my personal life. It all fits in a different slot. If I say I am this, it then makes you feel like you are done, or like you've done enough when you do the tasks related to that ER. So for me, if I say I'm a podcaster, my day comes, I do all things podcasting. I somehow find a way to fill in my entire day, all the time I have allotted for that thing with podcasting. Now, if I tell myself you have 2 hours to work on podcasting today, 4 hours to work on your day job, 3 hours to work on editing your video, you are capable of so much more, and you will continue to push yourself past that 10 out of 10 mark, because it's all how you look at it, right? If I look at it again, like I am a sales professional, I am a podcaster. Yes, it's what you do. However, it's not all you are. It's not your identity. My identity goes much deeper into eternity, into God. But in terms of career, your career identity, I would encourage you to simply look at it like, hey, this is something that I do under the scope of I'm a business person. And then you will start segmenting time blocks that you allow yourself to work on said aspect of your business life. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, or you would like to have a conversation with me about this further, if you agree, disagree, want to add something, email me, jonathan@thehearthealthyhustle.com. Instagram DMs as well, which is direct messages. We have the Facebook group. You can check that out. It is a lot of fun. We are on there all the time. It's active. People are in there liking, commenting, having guests on. It's exciting, guys. Check out the Facebook group. And with this episode, all I ask is if you enjoyed it or you got any benefit from it, share it. Share it with one person. And I will do my best to create more shareable content. I understand it's a little maybe even awkward for some people to share a full 40-minute interview with a guest. I'm not going to listen to this random 40-minute interview. That being said, the micro content episodes coming out roughly every week. I'm not ready to completely commit to bringing those out every week. If you see a week that they don't pop up, don't be dismayed. I am continuing consistency with Monday and Fridays. Thank you for listening. Keep crushing it in 2019. If you haven't yet, sit down and set up your goals with time frames. It isn't too late. It's always the best time to start. So if you're thinking, man, I still haven't done that, whatever it is that will work for you, sit down and just start. Every day is a new day, and this is the day. So let's get it. Keep focused on the vision, and never forget, live wide open. Godspeed.